President Biden continuing to promise tax hikes on the rich, while former President Trump says he's going to continue his administration's tax cuts. The CBO now projecting this year's federal budget deficit to jump to $1.9 trillion. That's up 27% from its original estimate. And joining us right now on how both presidential candidate tax plans will impact the deficit, former Treasury official Kitty Richards. She's senior fellow at the Groundwork Collaborative, and Rohit Kumar, former policy director for Senator Mitch McConnell. He's co-leader and principal of PwC's Washington National Tax Services. Good morning to both of you. Kitty, I'll start with you. Given, frankly, just how much the debt and deficit are blowing up, is it get solved unto itself simply by raising taxes on the rich? Do you have to cut the budget? What do you have to do? Because on the Democratic side, that is going to be the fundamental question.
Thanks so much. I want to zoom out for a second because I think that narrowing the conversation to just the deficit and debt is a real mistake. I am honestly less concerned about the trajectory of the debt than I am about the real needs that American families have around housing, around education, the investment needs that the country and the economy have for infrastructure, for the clean energy transition. And I think sometimes long-term projections about debt and deficit can really be a distraction from what the real needs of the economy are. Now, all that said, if you are concerned about the debt or the deficit, the growth in the long-term debt projections has been almost entirely driven by the Bush tax cuts, their permanent extension, and then the Trump tax cuts piled on top. And those were huge giveaways to the most profitable corporations, the wealthiest individuals in this country. And they are causing real problems in the real economy and with debt and deficit. And so I think the first step is trying to right those mistakes and then Kitty, seeing what the country really needs.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Are you an MMTer?
I'm actually just looking at the trajectory of the debt as projected, what caused it, and how we can turn it around.
No. I'm saying you said you're not worried about it. You're not worried. You said you're not worried about it, and I think there's a lot of smart people who are very worried about it because while it may not be a problem today, clearly, and I think we've seen this in every financial crisis is sparked by debt and deficits. That's what a crisis is. And the confidence doesn't get undermined in years and in months. It happens like that. It happens.
I'd love to respond to this because I think we've been hearing about the pending crisis of bond vigilantes at the door for years and years and years. And when we're talking about
we've seen this in other countries.
I'd really love to respond to your question because you just told me that financial crises are always sparked by debt. The 2008 financial crisis is a really great example. That put millions and millions of Americans out of work and out of their homes. It was not sparked by government debt growing. What it was sparked by was the housing crisis. And so
it was sparked by the debts, frankly, of the banks.
It was the
leverage in the banking system. That is debt.
Focusing on the federal debt and deficit is a distraction. If you thought in 2007 that the primary problem with our economy was growing government debt and the long-term debt projections, you really would have missed the mark. And I think that that's true now. And frankly, that's what happened during the recovery from the Great Recession. We've seen this movie before where we pivot from trying to recover from a huge shock very, very quickly to worrying about debt and deficits. And those worries are designed to convince people that it is time to cut programs like Social Security and Medicare that the American people rely on. I think that that is a mistake.
Okay.
I think that
Kitty,
we do need to talk about tax policy.
Kitty,
and what
we've set this conversation up so that there's more than one person that's part of it. And so I need to apologize to you because I have to get Rohit into this conversation. And I know he has a very different perspective.
Yeah, perhaps not surprisingly, I have a different perspective. So sort of two things leap to mind. One is, look, I am concerned about the deficit and the debt. I don't think it's something that we can just continue to ignore, but I'm more focused on what is driving it. And I think despite what was said earlier, if you just look at the data, the Congressional Budget Office, the ruthlessly nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office released new data on Tuesday, and it says, look, over the last 50 years, revenues as a percent of GDP, about 17.3%. Projected in the future, 18%. Revenues are doing their part. Spending over the last 50 years, about 21% of GDP, projected to be close to 25% of GDP. So, I mean, it's clear what is driving the long-term deficit and the debt. And I also, now this is maybe where we agree, I care about sort of human suffering and the welfare of the population. But if you look at what happened after 2017, just look at the data, right? In the 2 years after, real household median income up $6,000. Better than the last 10 years combined, right? Wages up in the following 3 years, better than any 3-year period in history. Unemployment amongst African Americans, Hispanics, those without high school diplomas, all lowest in recorded history. So there is a path for raising the social welfare of the population. It is a path that is proven, and it is not because we're not taxing enough. Revenues are doing their part. We just have exploding entitlement spending, and at some point we're going to have to address that. Maybe we don't have to address it tomorrow, but as an economist sort of famously said, it's not the wolf at the door that's the problem, it's the termites in the wall. And this growing spending, that's the termites in the wall, and that's what we need to be dealing with.
Kitty, is there ever a moment where you'd say we're spending too much?
I'm sure that there is, and I think that's an absurd straw man. But the question, I'd like to go back to what Rohit just said. It's very convenient to choose your windows and say incomes grew more than they had over the previous 10 years when you're talking about a lost decade of growth following the Great Recession that was largely attributable to too small stimulus and not enough investment in the American people. And when you're talking about revenues versus spending, it is absolutely true that revenues have been extremely low on average over the last 50 years. But that's because for the last 15, 20 years, we've been dealing with the Bush and Trump tax cuts. If you look, at the early 2000s, we had a budget that was in balance. People were concerned, in fact, that the United States was going to pay down its debt too aggressively. What we got was a series of tax cuts that benefited the wealthy and corporations at the expense of the American people, and chronic disinvestment. And on the spending question, I think it's worth looking at the CBO and looking at their projections from right before the extension permanently of the majority of the Bush tax cuts. And what you'll see is that spending projections have actually fallen since then, as have revenue projections. So when you say that spending is the problem, what we're actually seeing is that if we had not had the Bush tax cuts and the Trump tax cuts in their wake, we would have a permanently declining debt to GDP ratio, even with the aging of the population and the other things that are putting pressure on the federal budget. And so it's just disingenuous
20 seconds to you to respond to
that we have
that.
A spending problem.
Rohit, 20 seconds to respond to that real quick.
I mean, look, talk about cherry picking your data points. I'm talking about 50 years of data, right? This is the Congressional Budget Office. I didn't pick these numbers. This is the official nonpartisan.
But you disagree with the premise of what you said for about the last 20 years?
I do. And actually, we talk about the extension of the Bush tax cuts. What we are omitting from this conversation is that permanent extension, that was negotiated by then Vice President Biden and my former boss, Senator McConnell. This was a bipartisan agreement, not some partisan exercise.